Hi, afternoon everyone. Welcome to the Post-Budget Dialogue section organized by SSIA and supported by Workforce Singapore. I hope today's section will give you insights on career opportunities in the electronics and semiconductor industry in Singapore. So before we start, let us go through some housekeeping rules. All attendees will be muted upon entering the section, so please stay muted until the end of this section, where we will have a Q&A section. So all participants may type in your questions in your chat box during the presentations. And you can use the raise hand function by clicking on reactions. And please wait for us to unmute you to ask your question during the Q&A section. So let us have a look at today's agenda. First, we will have an update on Budget 2021, followed by an overview of electronics landscape and an introduction of VCA initiative. And last but not least, we will have a Q&A section named Ask Me Anything on job opportunity in the electronics industry. So without further ado, may I now invite Ms. Merlin Tan, Senior Manager of Workforce Singapore, to give us an update on Budget 2021. Merlin, please.
Thank you, Gillian. Let me just quickly upload the slides for the sharing. Okay. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Gillian, once again. And also, thank you, everyone, for taking your time to join us this afternoon. I am Marlene from Workforce Singapore. So with the recent budget announcements earlier this month, there have been a few enhancements being done to the various programs, and we thought it would be important and useful to share them with you during this session. Just a very quick introduction. In particular, today I will be sharing with you on the SGUnited Jobs and Skills Package. So it was first announced by our Deputy Prime Minister, Heng Swee Keat, in 2020 to open up more opportunities for local job seekers like yourself in jobs, attachments, and skills upgrading opportunities. And in the recent budget, the SGUnited Jobs and Skills Package is being revved up to support the hiring of 200,000 locals and also to provide up to 35 traineeship and training opportunities. So let me elaborate on the various programs and enhancements in the next few slides. So over here, you can see that the SGUnited Jobs and Skills Package comprises 3 key pillars. Under the first pillar, you see the jobs pillar, and there are short-term and long-term job opportunities under this SGUnited Jobs initiative. So don't worry, later on, I will be going into this initiative and the programs in specific. Okay, so under pillar 2, which is the traineeships pillar, there are SGUnited mid-career program, mid-career pathways for mid-career unemployed individuals, as well as SGUnited traineeships program catered for recent and new graduates. Under pillar 3, which is the skills pillar, we also see the strengthening of training support through the SGUnited skills program. And of course, there is also enhancement of the hiring incentive under the Skills Future Mid-Career Support Package. So with these 3 pillars, imagine yourself having 3 keys being put into your hands. So the first key, imagine it as having a key to open a door to a job. So for those of you who are looking for new jobs or wanting to make career transitions, you should first look at this pillar, which is the SGUnited Jobs Initiative. So we have started ramping up career conversion programs such as the Professional Conversion Program. So you can have a scan at the QR code as well to search for job opportunities under the SGUnited Jobs virtual career fairs. Alternatively, you can also search for SGUnited Jobs by adding a hashtag SGUnited Jobs on WSG's mycareersfuture.gov.sg portal. SSIA also offers PCP opportunities for the electronics and semiconductor sector, which you can access through their website. So apart from virtual self-help platforms, we are also making career services more accessible to you by bringing the SGUnited Jobs and Skills Center to 24 HDB towns and estates. So the second key that I was also talking about opens door to attachment opportunities. So businesses are definitely much more cautious about hiring now, but that does not mean that they are not, they do not want to grow their capabilities and groom talents. So they are definitely still open to offering job opportunities or attachments to you as well. So should you be unable to find a job you desire, say under the professional conversion program or even on My Careers Future portal, do consider traineeships to gain industry experience and exposure first. So if the company that you are attached to is pleased with your performance, they may convert you to a full-time employee, or even with the experience that you have gained, it will be helpful to make yourself more attractive to future employers when the economy recovers. So under the traineeship pillar, there are two groups of people that can benefit from the program. So the first group that can benefit from the traineeship pillar are the mid-career individuals. So supporting mature workers, particularly those in the 40s to 50s, is a key priority for the government. So therefore, we have also increased capacity of our placement programs for mid-career workers and also provided higher support rates with the jobs growth incentive for employers hiring mature workers. So over here, you'll see the SGUnited Mid-Career Pathways program, which allows mid-career individuals to tap on attachment and training opportunities at companies to expand your professional networks and also to gain new and useful skills to prepare for more permanent jobs in the future. So the mid-career individuals will also be attached to host organization to gain industry relevant experience and also receive training allowance for a duration of up to 9 months. So do note that training duration will be compacted into 6 months after 1st April, and the training allowance will also be further enhanced, as you can see on the table on the right side. So to find opportunities under the SGUnited Mid-Careers Pathway Program, Company Attachment, you can scan at the QR code or visit mycareersfuture.gov.sg portal and also search with the hashtag SGUP. Okay, I'll leave this page on for maybe a couple more seconds for you to scan the QR code if you're interested to find out more. Okay, so let me move on to the next part of the SGUnited Mid-Careers Pathway Program, which is the company training. So mid-career individuals can attend full-time training program delivered by market leaders and reputable companies to upskill yourself while waiting for job opportunities. So course fees can be offset with SkillsFuture credit, and in addition, trainees will also receive monthly allowance for the duration of the program. So do also note that the training duration will be compacted into 6 months after 1st April. So do have a scan at this QR code as well if you're interested to find out what are some of the training, company training that is available under this SGUnited Mid-Careers Pathway Program. Okay, so let me move on to the second group of people that can benefit from this traineeship pillar, and that would be the fresh graduates. So SGUnited Traineeships Program aims to provide recent and new graduates from ITEs, polytechnics, universities, and also other educational institutions to develop your skills professionally, even during this current economic climate. Okay, and through this program, trainees will also receive monthly allowance, as you can see on the right side of the table, and gain valuable experience for up to 9 months. This can help to build up professional networks to boost your employability by the time hiring demand picks up. So do also note that the training duration will be compacted into 6 months after 1st April, and the monthly allowance have also been further enhanced as indicated on the right side. So do have a scan as well if you are a fresh graduate and you're looking for traineeship and attachment opportunities. Okay, so moving on, the third key opens the door to skills training. So while waiting for other 2 doors to open, you can also make use of your time to pick up skills so that when an opportunity opens up, you are in good position to take it up. So comprising full-time training program ranging from 6 to 12 months, trainees will not only acquire industry relevant skills that can help to improve your employability, but also benefit from the employment facilitation efforts provided by the various training providers. And you also can receive monthly training allowance of $1,200, and course fee can also be offset using the SkillsFuture credit. But do note also that the training duration will be compacted into 6 months after 1st April. So do have a scan just to explore the kind of SGUnited skills program that are available. Okay. So this will be my very brief sharing on the SGUnited Jobs and Skills Program. With all these programs in place, we will support Singaporeans and ensure that everyone will have all 3 keys to open up these doors. and you would realize that opportunities are aplenty. However, sometimes it may be better for you to speak to someone about it, to understand a sector better, to know what's in it for you, what you can expect. So therefore, Workforce Singapore has put together the Volunteer Career Advisors Initiative to bring together a group of industry professionals to be there for you, to speak to you. I shall not reveal too much information for now, because I want to leave it to Wee Sing to share more of the exciting opportunities available for you in the electronics and semiconductor sector, and also for Julie to share more about the Volunteer Career Advisors Initiative with you later on. So that's the end of my sharing. I will now hand the time back to Gillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Marlene. Next, for the next section, we would like to invite Mr. Ang Wee Sing, Executive Director of SSIA, to give us an overview of electronics landscape. Wee Sing, please.
Thank you, Gillian. Thank you, Marlene, for a wonderful, informative sharing earlier. So firstly, good afternoon to everybody and welcome to this session. So my part, I will be sharing you all a little bit more about the semicon industry, both from a Singapore context and also from a global view of what the industry is all about. And I always cover, whenever I talk about our industry, how COVID-19 has also impacted our industry and what is the future of it. So first of all, for those who are not familiar with the semicon industry, I will start off with a very fundamental question on what is semiconductor. So semiconductor is basically a material that has the ability to become both an insulator and also a resistor. And it depends on how we basically change its properties. So engineers like us, basically, we create chipsets that comes in terms of millions in a very particular chip, and all these chip, basically what their function is to basically be in a layman's term, a switch, a 1-0. So when you flow electricity will go through and things like that. So that's how we basically been developing chipset, and it goes into multiple products, which I'll show later on. So the challenge for this industry has always been trying to make the chip smaller, faster, and cheaper because of demand from consumer like us. We always want our phone to be upgraded year on year. We want it to be cheaper. We want it to be faster and better. Okay, so semiconductor is a very exciting industry in that sense because we are always at the front of technology. So if you look at some of the products that the chipset goes into, if you look at the far left, there's an Xbox 360. Those who came from the era, Xbox 360 core processor was actually produced here in Singapore, and many other processors are also produced in Singapore because we ourselves in Singapore, we produce almost 12% of the global electronics components. And if you look to the far right, today, in technologies and sectors like automotive is now driving the demand for semiconductor also. So this is just a quick overview of what semiconductor is all about. Now I'd like to talk a little bit more about the semiconductor ecosystem in Singapore. Now you look very quickly, this is the entire ecosystem. So when we talk about semiconductor, it's not just the manufacturing in clean room, in bunny suits. We're talking about the whole ecosystem from equipment makers to material chemicals, all the way to wafer manufacturers, even the system integration. So if you look at the companies here, there'll be some that you'll be familiar with, like, for example, AMD, Intel. Some that you're not so familiar with, for example, like Cadence, Kemsa, they're all part of our ecosystem. And later on, I'll show a video which kind of elaborate more on the various sectors that covers this industry. So what is the semicon industry today in Singapore? What is it to our industry, to our country? So electronics and precision engineering itself, these two, covers the semicon, and we take up close to 40% of the national GDP in that sense. So we are a significant industry. And if you take a step back and look at the companies that are based here in Singapore, right? We have the top 3 manufacturers, this manufacturer in Singapore, like Seagate. We have the top so-called wafer fabrication factories in Singapore, also like Global Foundries, UMC, they're all based here. And we also have the top assembly and test operation plants here based in Singapore, like UTech and STATS. So, Singapore is one of the largest ecosystem for semicon in the world, together with the countries like China, Taiwan, South Korea, and the US. So we have a very big footprint. And if you look at the areas that are growing this sector, now in mid-2000, You have the iPhone that came about, and that was one of the growing factor that drive our industry growth. If you look at today, you have, like I mentioned earlier, automotive. Every car that you're in today has some form of chip in it, and there'll be more in the future when you go towards electric vehicle. And then you look at things like, for example, IoT. Now, everything in our house today are all connected to the internet, and every one of them require a chipset, which then has a demand for chip from our industry too. So our industry will continue to grow, and I'll show later on a trend globally, how this growth will basically be impacting Singapore also. So if you take a step further and look at the global semiconductor market in last year, Asia alone, right, we cover about 70% of the global chip production. So Asia is one of the largest chip production, especially driven by countries like Taiwan, Singapore, and China. So we are very big in the space, and Singapore alone, like I mentioned earlier, accounts for about 12%. So now there is also a strong, focus from government standpoint in wanting to ensure that this industry continue to grow, both from an economic standpoint, but also from a security standpoint. Because you look at the recent issue, trade tension between US and China. US is basically blocking China from buying chipset from around the world. And China now has a national interest to basically build 75% of chipset internally within the next 5 years. So Semicon market is growing not just in Singapore, but across the world also. And if you look at this chart, it's another chart that I like to kind of show you all from a year-to-year trend since the mid-90s. If you look at a blue line, that is the revenue chart. Every year, you can see that this industry generates more and more and more basically revenue. So it's an expanding industry. But just like every industry, there will always be ups and downs, but the general trend, look at the blue line, is always going up. In fact, Boston Consulting Group, a consulting company in US, has done a study, and they forecast that in the next decade, in the next 10 years, this industry will grow by almost 56% or more. So every country today is eyeing on, how big of that piece of pie, we'll be having. So even in Singapore, you can see factories are expanding. We are, and in fact, I'm going to mention the next page. It is one of the few industries that's hiring despite the pandemic. So if you look at the recent news, we have the government saying that they want to see how manufacturing will be growing. And one of the sectors that they will be growing is also the semiconductor companies. So this is a very recent news that came out a few days ago, and it shows that several companies are recommitting to expanding their fabs. So now I need to talk about the elephant in the room. The past 1 year has been a life-changing experience for many of us from many industry also, COVID-19. So COVID-19 also has impacted our industry, but fortunately, it's not as bad as what we see in our other sectors like the tourism or the F&B or even aerospace. Semicon actually has the better side of it in the sense that because of COVID-19, right, there is not a significant demand spike in terms of microchip. Suddenly, most of us are working from home, and everybody thinks of upgrading their system, upgrading their laptop, upgrading their iPad. So there is a surge in consumer electronics. And the problem is that with all the borders shut down across nations, the foreign workers are not able to fly in to support some of this industry like ours, for example. So our capacity is now limited because of the workforce also. So in a way, it's because of pandemic that we realized that something as tiny as a semiconductor chip has such a significant impact to all human lives. So if you look another story in the recent weeks or so, many of the car makers are already shutting down their plant because they can't get sufficient chipset to build the cars. So now, how is the situation going to improve? At least for the next half a year, there will be problem getting a lot of these microchips. So those of you who are waiting for the likes of, for example, PlayStation 5, we may have to wait longer because the demand will continue to spike. The supply will still be shortage. But in the short term, maybe the 6 to 7 months down the road, many of the existing fab will be expanding their capability and they'll be hiring to meet this demand. Long term, you start to see there's a lot of significant investment in building new plants. Like you look at the news today, US Intel has announced building of 2 fabs in Arizona, for example. Hopefully, we'll see some of those in Singapore also. So if you look at another chart about the impact of the pandemic, this is a chart that I pulled up from late last year. It shows that electronics manufacturing is one of the very few sectors that is still hiring despite the pandemic. And like I mentioned earlier, because of the surge of demand, the surge in the need to produce more supply, and the lack of foreign workers these days, we need a lot more support to build this workforce locally and to support the demand spike. Yeah. So with that, I would like now to play a video. My colleague will play a video for you just to watch and see what are the sectors that is covering the semicon industry. And I'll come back to you at the end of it. Yeah.
Singapore is a respected regional semiconductor hub. There are hundreds of companies in the semiconductor industry in the country, making up 11% of global market share. The semiconductor and electronics industry forms about 40% of Singapore's economy. The sector has been expanding year on year, with demand driven by new applications and technologies. Indeed, the manufacturing of this tiny chip is supported by a rich ecosystem consisting of multinational companies as well as local small and medium enterprises. Building semiconductors is a complicated process of R&D, manufacturing, testing, packaging, quality control, distribution, and marketing. The entire chain can be divided into 8 categories. Companies in this category design products and subcontract the manufacturing process to wafer manufacturing plants. Companies in this second category own the fabs to manufacture semiconductors. Fabs are clean rooms with various modules equipped to process integrated circuit devices. In this category, the companies design, manufacture, and market their own products. Companies in this category provide packaging services to silicon devices made by foundries into components and test them prior to shipping to the market. Companies in this fifth category are the equipment suppliers for semiconductor manufacturing. In this category, the companies provide the base materials and other raw materials required for semiconductor manufacturing. In the seventh category, the companies design, manufacture, test, distribute, and provide return or repair and assembly services for electronic parts. Companies in this final category provide a wide range of services in the value chain, from equipment maintenance, IT solutions, analysis, and consultancy, to the sale of refurbished products. The future of the semiconductor industry is bright and vibrant. Besides the setup of new companies' facilities in Singapore to produce next-generation chips enabling different innovations, companies are also investing in their employees, upskilling and reskilling, building the local talent pool to meet the challenges of advanced technologies.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. So I hope you all have seen the video. That is just a snapshot of the various sectors that basically covers our industry. So you can see it's a wide range. You could be studying electrical electronics in your past, there is a job for you, or you could even study civil engineering or facilities, logistics, and there'll also be a job for you. So it's just a matter of searching for the right company with the need for such talent, and the job will be available. Now, just to give a final touch on the job opportunities within the semicon industry, late last January, we actually conducted a electronics industry day where we got various companies to come on board to showcase, what is the industry is all about, and also to understand what is the job, availability. So there's about 2,800 jobs, that they are looking for out of 130 companies. And you can find all of this from the various websites we will show later on. And I hope many of you all will consider this industry as an opportunity for you all to pursue your career also. So before I end the last 2 pages, I want to share, Now, the SSIA, the trade association that I run, basically focus on growing our industry and focus on 3 areas, which is to help companies improve productivity, help companies innovate their product services, and most importantly is what we are doing now is to grow our talent pool. So we do have platforms like, for example, the Voice magazine that we publish once every 2 months. This is a free magazine that we publish across. If you want to know more about industry, the vibrancy, the companies that's in it, check it out. It's free. Download from Medster. We put it into Medster, or go to our website, ssia.org.sg, to download the PDF version of it. And like I mentioned earlier, we do have a job portal that basically talks more about industry. So do check it out. Scan the QR code here, and hopefully, I'll see you in our industry soon. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Wee Sing. Our next speaker will be Ms. Julie Koh, Strategic Program Director from SSIA, and she will introduce us more about the VCA initiative. Julie, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. So before I start to share with you a little bit more about the Volunteer Career Advisor Initiative, we'll screen a quick video.
Mr. Tan, so you are aware of the long working hours, right?
Believe me, I've worked all hours.
You have what? 15 more years to offer, at best?
I like to see it as bringing 25 years of experience to the table.
Do you really think you can keep up with the younger ones though?
Mr. Tan,
Are you aware of work-life balance?
Are you sure you can handle the stress? Are you prepared to work overtime?
Brian, your skills are transferable. Plus, you have the advantage of having done all this before.
You know, a very successful exec once gave me some excellent advice that I should turn age into an advantage. I know some tricks that the younger ones will thank me for.
Then, Baba, you have our permission.
Thank you for the support. And thank you for your advice.
You're welcome, Brian. Now, all the best for your interview, okay?
Come back. Let me share the screen. Okay, welcome back. So the video briefly introduced about VCA, the Volunteer Career Advisor Initiative that was being announced by the DPN, Mr. Heng, during the Unity Budget in February 2020. Okay. So this VCA initiative is part of the Skill Future Mid-Career Support Package, which aims to provide individuals, especially for the matured workers, with peer-level support and career guidance as we navigate to advance their career or transition into another job. Yeah. So this is just a nice little quote from Helen Keller that a lot of time alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. So indeed, as a community, we can do so much more to support one another, and that's what we are looking at right now. Okay, maybe I do a brief introduction of myself. So I'm Julie Koh, and currently I'm the Strategic Programs Director at Singapore Semiconductor Industry Association, in short SSIA. So in fact, I joined the semiconductor industry since 1992 as part of a startup team of Micron, First Fab. And of course, through the years, I've worked in the front end as well as back end operations itself. So being with the company like Micron and Global Foundries, it has provided me the opportunity to mentor quite a number of managers and engineers in the past to excel beyond their performance. So as of right now, I am also one of the volunteer career advisor with Workforce Singapore. And so we do hope to see more people coming up and be it be an advisor or be it register to be an advisee or career advancement. Okay, so for this, in terms of the recent years itself, of course, for VCA, it is also very important that we do note about the changing job landscape, especially in the after or in the midst of the pandemic itself. With the technology disruption, things going digitalization, in fact, it has impacted many industry as well as the jobs as being shared by Wee Seng earlier. So it is also important to understand what are some of the new emerging sectors and the creation of new job roles that are presented as an opportunity for job seekers. Okay, so there are in fact areas which are not being heard in the past or are relatively new. So for example, like recent months itself, we may hear more and more of such terms like digitalization or 4G, 5G. And in fact, with such all these changes and advances, new roles, for example, like data analytics, computing, they are very popular. And so those are the so-called new emerging roles and sectors that are in the industry. So it is good to understand what are the trends and growth so as to work towards an upskill or reskill so that we can stay relevant and remain employable for a longer period of time. Okay, so in terms of the objective of our volunteer career advisors initiative, so it is important that we provide or empower our job seekers in terms of the understanding what are the career changes that are in the industry itself, so as to increase, right, our job seekers the opportunity of finding the roles or the kind of job that is suitable for them. Okay, and as majority of us are the adult learners. So in fact, we bring along the relevant experiences, and also must remember that we do have transferable skills. So in the for the VCA, it's also, we do want to impart the sense of assurance and confidence while the advisee makes certain decision for their career, right? So, and also it's for us, we do want to share some of the resources and channels that are available, especially in Singapore, whereby to enable and help a career, smooth career transition. Okay, so so you would be wondering, so who are these volunteer career advisors? Okay, so in fact, we are a diverse group of expertise or professionals, and it came mainly from two groups. One group is the industry professionals who have been in this industry for quite a number of years, and they could be expertise in various operations or be different functions of the industry. And in fact, some of our VCAs are even retired from the industry. However, their experiences are really vast and very valuable. And we do have another group of volunteers who are alumni from the PCP program, the Professional Conversion Program, where they will be able to share their experiences through the process itself while they move into this new industry or move into the new job role. So, and a lot of us in fact got this question that why do we volunteer? So I think one thing is that we feel very fortunate that at least in Singapore, there are a lot of resources available to help the Singaporeans in terms of the career navigation. So part of it is that as volunteers, we do want to help our fellow Singaporeans to seek clarity and gain confidence while we navigate in the career itself, be it changes in industry or changes in role. And in fact, we are very inspired and excited to share opportunities of what the industry has for the people itself. And in doing so, we do hope to impart some valuable industry knowledge and insights. So one thing about it is that as volunteer, we volunteer our time. There's no monetary reward, but it is in fact very inspiring to do it to help people. Okay, so what do VCA, the advisors, do? So of course, it's very important that we share what are the industry about, especially to people who may or may not be aware of this industry. So we will be able to share a little bit more about the trends, the opportunity available, and also in the process itself, provide certain clarity so that they know what they are going into. And it also provides certain assurance in terms of building that confidence while they navigate the career transition. And it's also very important that there are, in fact, a lot of resources available, be it with Workforce Singapore, the kind of government programs and services, as well as, for example, SSIA job portal that is available for the electronic and semiconductor industry. So it's very important that we also share that what are the resources available, how to connect with them to find out more information so as to be able to take up the next step, what to do next. Okay, so if you are looking into, let's say, a new industry, for example, you may have been in an industry, let's say, in the aerospace or in the precision engineering and so on, and you would like to, let's say, transition into electronics, into semiconductor. So you, or maybe you are already in semiconductor, but in, from an operation, you would like to, let's say, explore into other function in semiconductor and so on, or be it new role. So do sign up and speak to a volunteer career advisor. They may be able to explore with you a little more in terms of the understanding of what you're passionate about, and also be able to explore more in terms of that new role that you are trying to look into, and what kind of resources are there available so that you can progress and take the next step. Okay, so how do we go about conduct the advisory sessions? So we can do it online as well as offline. So in fact, let's say online, we can set up one-to-one small group meeting, be it the Zoom or be it Skype, through different platforms itself. Or in fact, we can also do it in person, maybe have a T-chat and so on, so as to understand you a bit more in terms of what the career aspiration that you have, what you want to do, or what kind of role that you want to look into, and discuss further from there. Okay, so so if you are interested and would like to connect with a career volunteer, volunteer career advisor, you may scan on this QR code, and in it you will be able to find the various sectors whereby you will be able to find, for example, the electronic sector, where we will have some of the VCA, the advisors itself, where you can choose and connect. So it is a very, I would say, quite a wonderful platform that, so do use it and come forward to connect. Okay, so that's all the sharing that I have. So yeah, before the end of it is, I think it's also, this is a very nice quote, which I think is very wonderful, that it's very important to prepare for tomorrow by doing your best self today. And in fact, not just today, your best self every day. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Now we have come to the Q&A section for today, and we are happy to have Moisia Lee from, she's the head of Career Advisors Program Office from WSG. So we will have 3 panelists to join us in this section, and we welcome participants to ask them anything that you want to know about the industry. So I will pass over the time to Julie, who will be the moderator for this Q&A section. Julie, please.
Thank you, Gillian. So we'll welcome back Yiseng as well as Xia Li. Okay, so maybe I'll start off with the first question, which I think a lot of people are interested. And so for the electronic sector, it is a very broad sector. Can you share a little bit more about what the sector comprises, and also within this sector itself, what's the growth aspect in Singapore?
So this one, Julia, I'll take, right? So basically, I've shown the video earlier, and you know that there are 8 sectors that we broadly categorize. You look at the foundries, you look at the OSATs. There are a lot of them. Like I mentioned also earlier, you could be a graduate in the civil or mechanical engineering space, but you will find a job in the semicon space also. And especially in the manufacturing group, they hire a big wide range of graduates from all areas basically. Now, if you remember one of the slides that I shown earlier, year on year, this industry shows growth, all the way from mid-90s to today. If anything, there is even a forecast report that came up from Boston Consulting Group that says that the industry will grow by almost 56% in the next decade. So it only means that, the question is, where would a lot of this growth be happening? So it really depends on where will the investment happen. Now, if you look at Singapore, today we are in a very well-positioned place where, I showed you have a wide ecosystem. So many of the investors are actually attracted to look at our country as a possible investment site also. So the opportunity for growth is huge. The question is, will we have the talent sufficient to support this growth?
Thank you, Wee Seng. Yeah. So, and I have got this very similar question from Manjunatha as well as Francis, that they do have experience in the semiconductor industry. And so how can they apply for job in the semiconductor itself in Singapore?
So if you look at the QR code I gave you all earlier, or go to my SSIA website, you will see there's a job portal. Submit a resume there, and we will try to reach out to the companies to help match your past capability, your past talents to the existing needs and the demand of the industry. Now, if you are a local worker, you are a local so-called workforce, there will also be programs like what they mentioned earlier, like the Professional Conversion Program (PCP), that can further support some of these companies in hiring you. So do check out the website that I shared earlier on the jobs. Check it out and do submit your resume there. Yeah.
And there is this question from Francis. And is SGUnited Mid-Career Pathway Company Attachment a new program? I'm currently a mid-career pathway training. Can I convert to company attachment as there is opportunity for job attachment?
Thank you, Julie. The entire SGUnited Jobs and Skills package was first rolled out early last year, when the first wave of COVID started, becoming apparent that it was going to have a certain significant impact on both our economy as well as on our employment. The mid-career pathway program company attachment was then rolled out midway last year. If you are currently on a SGUnited mid-career pathway company training, meaning you're attending full-time training with a training provider, whether it's the likes of Google or IBM, and after that training has ended, you want to explore going for a company attachment, you can. The openings and the approved positions are currently all listed on mycareersfuture.gov.sg. You can go in, hashtag SGUP, and the relevant open attachment positions will be listed on the website. So feel free, go in, take a look, and you can apply. Thank you.
Thank you, Xiali. Okay, next question. What do you think has changed the most significantly about the sector from the last one or two decades? And what do you think are the key upcoming trends for electronic sector?
That's a very interesting question. So if you look at the life that we live in today, you look back at 2 decades ago, the number of electronics items, consumer electronics that we use versus what we do today. Basically, your handphone is now your computer in a sense. Things has changed a lot. All the way to even your cars, has changed a lot. So with all these things, right, you do see a significant growth and demand in terms of microchips. And like what I mentioned earlier, also the Internet of Things, IoT, from everything from your lights, even to your microwave these days are all connected, your refrigerator, they are all connected to the internet. And to a certain extent, every one of them requires a chipset. Now, if you look into the future, 4G was the thing in the past. 5G is the upcoming rising stuff. There's now research in the 6G arena. This will be the future of communications, and that will change our lives significantly. Every one of these, again, has a significant impact on the growth of our industry. So if you look at the situation, the trend in the way we live, the trend in the way consumer electronics has evolved, it will only create more and more demand for our electronics industry. Yeah.
If I could just add on to what Wee Seng said, a lot of the things that he mentioned are very technological, very product, very, and our lifestyle and consumers. While there is definitely that in terms of the technical track, I think what comes with it is also a lot of the technical related parts, whether it's about marketing, whether it's about supply chain, optimization, finance, all these will also grow in tandem with that. So even if you may not be super, deep in terms of, electrical engineering or, computer science and engineering, there are still possible opportunities in tech-related roles, so long as the industry continues to grow and continues to stay relevant and competitive.
Yeah.
Thank you for the insights. Okay, and for all the participants, if you do have questions, do drop it into the chat group itself so that we will be able to call out your question. Okay, maybe one more question here. If one does not have the relevant skill for the job itself, but have other industry experience, the question is that can they still apply for the jobs, and any tips on how to go about doing it?
Maybe I'll take this question first. So I was from the industry and I've been hiring a lot of workers. One advice, if you look at your current skill sets and if there's somewhat a match, so if you are from an engineering or technical line in the past and you are looking at the new job that is also in a technical line, there's definitely an opportunity to bridge, definitely, because engineering is engineering. You learn statistics, you look at data, is the same thing. It doesn't change from industry to industry. And the beauty of it is that we do have programs within the company that uses and tap onto programs like the PCP to support this transfer of knowledge and basically on the job training. So companies will have this program in place to support your so-called career change. But again, my advice is make sure you look at the job carefully and make sure that to a certain extent, you can go into it confidently. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Wee Seng. There's another interesting question from Francis. So as you mentioned, China is also targeting to grow the semiconductor industry due to trade war. Is this a threat or benefit to Singapore semiconductor industry?
Good question. So we always look at the cup half full. You can look at it half empty, but we look at it half full. Now, China is always a so-called ally to us in a sense also, because you look at the technology and you look at the space that we're in, the ecosystem, China will also need Singapore when it comes to tapping into our ecosystem. So as China grow, our ecosystem will also grow. So if you look at me, it's more of an opportunity. Now, within company, definitely there will be strategic competition with the firms in China, but that will be within the company to challenge. But look at a bigger picture from a nation standpoint, it's always advantageous if you look at China growing, US growing in terms of Semicon, because Singapore will also benefit from it in terms of growth. And one of the beauty of it is that we as a country have a very strong ecosystem. We have a very stable social, political scene, and we have very strong IP scene also in Singapore. So with that, many of the investors will always consider us as a spot to invest, even though they're also investing in China. Yeah.
The other thing I would add is that the global demand for electronics, for its products, for technology continues to grow. I think what COVID has recently shown is that a lot of companies, investors will now also need to diversify. They can't just go into one single supply chain or one single source, which means actually while China is growing, US is growing, it also means that the space for Singapore and in the electronic sector continues to grow together with it as well. Because people are now realizing you can't just simply have all your eggs in one basket. And Singapore, like what Wee Seng mentioned, with all the ecosystem, the business-friendly environment, R&D-friendly environment, means that we become very attractive when investors and companies are looking to say, okay, what is the other thing I need to have to make my strategy and my manufacturing footprint complete?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
In fact, that growth is quite apparent right now. Okay, I asked this question on behalf of mid-career change itself, okay? So though there are a lot of resources available online, doing a mid-career switch is a very big step and definitely emotionally exhausting and stressful. Do you have any practical advice on how to reduce these stresses?
Maybe I kickstart the response, and then we feel free to chip in. I think it's for those who are maybe been working for a certain period of time, to switch tracks is not so easy, because you would have maybe achieved certain things, certain levels, and where you are, and making that switch perhaps potentially seems a lot more daunting, risky, because you have more to lose. What we would want to, I think, encourage is start thinking about it, and don't get overly paralyzed by all the various questions. Start narrowing down maybe some of your options. Do your research, whether it's reading up, whether it's speaking to people in your circle, people that or come talk to us, one of the volunteers from WSG, about the possibilities, as well as maybe whether or not your own assumptions are they realistic, and do they play out also in the sector. And don't be overly hasty. Take your time and do it slow and steady. But I would say don't procrastinate, because otherwise, you will never come to a conclusion. The decision will end up being made for you.
Yeah, that is a good point. I mean, like what Sally mentioned, right? Basically, do your research first and make sure you have the confidence to take the next step. Now, I can speak on behalf of the corporate world from our industry, because I was from that space, right? You also need to know that from this industry standpoint, Semicon, taking mid-career job seekers is not something new to us also. It is a process that we have done not in the last few years. It's been ongoing for many years already. And I've, in my lifetime in the corporate world, also I've hired many mid-career change workers. So if you know that the industry is familiar with this process, you also know that they have sufficient support and understanding in supporting your growth and your conversion in a sense. And like I mentioned earlier, with programs like PCP, these are all tools that can help this conversion, both from a worker standpoint and also from the employer standpoint. So, in that sense, don't worry, infrastructure are all in place. The question is whether, taking this leap of a new career is something that is the right thing for you to do, and it's only yourself you can answer that, and really look inwards, right? Understanding your capability to this future that you're looking at. Yeah.
I would add that the program that Wee Sing mentioned, the professional conversion program, it's a program that we've been running for a number of years. And in the recent years and in the next few years, we have seen a dramatic increase in terms of demand for it, in terms of and we've also increased the capacity for these programs together with it, because I think increasingly both individuals, like the participants here today, as well as companies, the employers, recognize that they cannot expect to always hire people only from the sector, or only those who have that university degree or whatever that training might be. And therefore, such transitions, such adjustments from employers, from individuals will become more and more common. And that's something that also from government standpoint, we want to make sure we put in place sufficient support and programs to ensure this doesn't slow down unnecessarily.
Correct.
Thank you both of you for the advices. I think they are wonderful advices for the people. Yeah. So maybe another question. What are the type of jobs in the sector that are in demand with the employers in the immediate and medium term right now?
Maybe I'll answer that. So if you look at the typical semiconductor so-called business today, in the past, we have, like I mentioned, manufacturing, all those things are all in place. But I look in the recent years, right, one thing that has really grown significantly is digitalization. You can see this trend that's happening not just in Semicon, but across the sector, moving towards Industry 4.0. So this space is not something that is just unique to one particular sector. It's across the broad sense, across all industry. So you can see that many of the companies are investing heavily in data scientists in the space of big data analytics, for example, programmers. So, this is one space that's growing. And you look at it, traditionally, this is not a semiconductor type of work, but and yet this is a space that's growing significantly because it can improve a lot of throughput capacity for the companies that's making the semiconductor chips. So again, things continue to evolve as we move ahead in the future, and semicon industry will evolve together. So, we will continue to hire necessary talents that will bring us into the future also.
Okay, thank you, Wee Seng. Yeah, looks like there isn't a lot of questions from the participants. Maybe we'll do one of the final question. So let's say if we can give some final tips or advice to the participants who are looking to join this sector or looking for a career transition, what challenges or pitfalls do they need to be aware of, and what can they look forward to?
Maybe I'll start with this and then I'll pass it on to Sally. So just like any job, whether it is something that you're mid-career change or you're starting new, your expectation is key. Okay, set the right expectation going to a job. Now, my advice is that do this job because number one, you have faith in this industry. You know this industry is going to grow. You believe this industry is something you can invest in your career in, and you must believe that this industry will give back to you. That's something you must set the right expectation. Don't go in this industry expecting to be a billionaire, to be everything else in the world, but not expecting you to work hard, to learn hard, in the first few years when you come to the industry. So I think that's a very important advice, not just for the mid-career change, but for anybody who's starting a job new in any company or any industry. Yeah.
I think the other thing I would mention, other than what I said earlier in terms of doing your research, speaking to people, so you don't jump into it with your eyes completely closed, but that kind of what you're going in it for and what you think you should be expecting. The other one I would say is don't get too frustrated if things are tough. Some of these will take time. Forcing a lot of people, or for a lot of people to change track sometimes is because you realize that you want to do this before the decision is made for you. And that's good, but it could also still remain the case that it may not be the easiest path. So give yourself a bit of time, be patient, don't lose heart.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's also very important that we be open to the opportunities and possibility, bring along all your transferable skills, and I believe the future will be bright. Okay, thank you so much, Sally and Wee Seng, for the insightful discussion. And I believe the participants who have heard got a lot more understanding from both of you. Okay, we'll pass it back to Jillian. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
And Sally. We have come to the end of this section. So if you would like to know more about the electronics landscape or the job opportunities as mentioned, you can browse our jobs page at ssia.org.sg/jobs. And now we would like to get your feedback on today's section. So please scan the QR code and fill in the answers for the questions. It will help us to improve in our future webinar sections. So once you have finished the questionnaire, you are free to leave. Thank you so much for participating in our today's section, and do browse our website and check out more on the VCA program. And if you have any questions, you can contact us. Thank you.